this month. And I don't know why I came up with this. I don't know exactly why. But I was reflecting about something, and I realized that I was overreacting of something that supposedly was so small, and I was making such a big thing out of it. And then I said that maybe I need to talk about this and to learn how to deal with things with reality instead of making a big deal out of everything. And the funny thing happened because when I switched my perception on this, I immediately felt better about it. Just the realization that I was overreacting of something, it helped me. And sometimes this is what it takes, little things, to help us. So I said, okay, let's talk about this. And I look at this and I said, okay, I'm going to call this lecture The Art of Complicating Simple Things, because this is basically what we do, right? Everybody, right, can relate to that. And the first thing we have to think about it is, okay, I do this. We all do this. And why? And we have to realize that we are here and still we are here to evolve. Evolution did not stop because we evolve, from the animal kingdom to the human being, and we're still evolving. And one thing that we need to evolve, it's a consciousness. We have to let the ego go and work on a consciousness evolution. And we have to think about that all the time. I need to progress. It didn't stop it. I still have to work. I still need to do something. Okay? So this is very common for a planet that we live on it, because we don't have too much of consciousness development. We have intelligence, we have instinct, but we still have some things to work on it. And now it's up to us. Now it's up to us. So this happens in our lives because we're still teenagers when it comes to spiritual evolution. We're not all that, so we still have to grow. So this is normal in our lives, okay? One of the reasons why, we can pick up a bunch of explanation, but one of the things that we have to think about it is just, you spell that, emotional intelligence, okay? We have to start to think about it. How can I be more intelligent when it comes to my emotions? You guys thought about this? That we need to develop this kind of intelligence. Some people do have more than others. Okay? Some people, because or maybe of the experience of life or maybe other life, they already come a little bit more smart, let's put it that way, when it comes to emotion. Most of us here that are here on this planet Earth have a very difficult time to manage our emotions. And number one, we have to realize this. Yes. Number two is okay. Number three, let's transform. Okay, let's work on that. So, related to what we want to talk about it, we have the capacity to have more than one perception. This is what we have to develop, not to complicate things. Okay? We need to develop the capacity to have more than one perception. Okay. We are all here, and if something happens, if we have maybe 20 people here, we're going to see things differently. Okay? Some people will see the world through the gut feeling. Some people will see through the heart, and some people will see through the mind. Only that there's 3 kinds of different way of seeing lives. To the gut, to the heart, and to the mental, over here. How do you see it? If you see the world to the mental stage, you're going to have a completely different perspective than a person, for example, that sees you from the heart. And you're going to see a completely different person, a perspective, when you're going to see for the gut. So who's right and who's wrong? No one. No one is right and no one's wrong. We just see things differently. Okay? So, biggest mistake ever is when we think that if I see something, the other person will see the same way. Biggest mistake ever. And that's why, it's one of the reasons why we complicate things so much. Because we don't have the capacity to go in and see to the same situation differently. Okay? We're going to see it in one perception. And this is the way that we see it. Okay? When you work on your emotional intelligence, you're going to seek to see the same thing in different ways. Okay? And then, number 2, why we make things so complicated. We have to learn that it's not personal. It's not personal. And we seem to see life as a personal thing. So if I walk here at a center and if I forgot to say hi to Steve or hi to Manny, it's not because I don't like Steve or I don't like Manny. Sometimes I'm in my mind and I forget to say hello. So it's not personal. But the mind is going to think, oh, I did something wrong. Wow, why did she? The interpretation of the mind goes crazy. Okay? You see a person, for example, a husband that is not romantic at all, or a boyfriend that is not romantic. He doesn't see the world as romantic as the partner do. And then if he forgets and if he doesn't bring flowers, or if it's not because he doesn't love you. It's not personal to you. It's just the way that the person is. And you have to develop the capacity to learn. It's not personal. People don't do things most of the time to hurt us, to make us feel bad, or to irritate us. They're just being themselves. It's not personal. It's them. It's the way they are. They're not after that to get you. Okay? But we will complicate things because we take it personally. At the moment that we say it's not personal, okay? A person that forgets to answer a message that we send, sometimes it's not personal. It's not because they don't want to answer you. It's just because they read, they forgot, and they were busy in their life. It's not personal. Okay? And the last thing is about getting out of the autopilot. Okay, we have an autopilot. We have a way that we usually react to life. We have that. It's called autopilot. Guess what? In order for you to develop your intelligence, your emotional intelligence, you're going to have to stop the autopilot. You're going to have to do differently. You're going to have to recognize the autopilot. Okay? So here we have 3 simple reasons why we complicate things that are usually very simple. Okay? So they're all based in one thing. We have to develop our emotional intelligence. Okay, so there was a few healthy questions that we need to ask ourselves. The first one is, what if I'm wrong? Okay. Think about this. What happens to us when we complicate things? What happened to us? Stress. Okay, it's not a good feeling, right? It's not something that we go in and say, wow, I'm complicating things. No, this brings suffering and pain, irritation, anxiety. It's not something that it's good for us, so it's our own interest. We have to talk about this. We have to start to reflect upon a few things. And one of the things that we have to ask ourselves is, what if I'm wrong? Meaning, I'm not talking about your actions. What if I'm wrong on my own judgment? What if I'm wrong about my political views? What if I'm wrong about the perception that I have for the other person? What if I'm wrong? So let me give you a simple example. If Francisco says something to me and then I'll make my own opinion, I don't tell him, but in my mind I say, oh, Francisco did this to me because of this. And I start making stories in my head. If I don't ask this question, I am going to overreact. I have to stop this. And I have to ask the question, what if I'm wrong? About my opinion, my perspective of something that happens, and that might include a situation, and that might include a person's view. This is a very healthy question. Because when you ask that question, what is going to happen? Yes, you're going to open yourself, objective, you're going to open yourself to other possibilities. Okay? And every spiritual person needs to ask these questions. Needs to. Because it's not about being right or wrong in the action. We have to stop with that. Every time I try to talk about this, there comes a person and said, what if a person comes in with a gun and shoots everybody? So I'm not talking about this. Let's go a little bit deep on the aspect. I'm talking about the assumptions that you make all the time. The assumptions are the problems. And when you ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? You question your own assumptions. And then you open yourself to possibilities. Okay? So this is a very healthy questions that we need to ask. Another one, how the others perceive that same situation. Okay, so let's go through a situation, okay? A situation at work, a situation in a family, a situation here at center, or traffic situation. I don't care what situations, okay? So if it's more than one person involved, how the other person perceive that same situation. You guys got that question? Because for sure, if we have a problem with someone, we see and we're going to perceive that situation in one way. But the other person, most of the time, will not. So it's kind of like this. You getting your own perspective, they getting their own perspective, and you making your assumptions, and they're making their assumptions, and there it is, the problem. Because I don't ask the questions. What if Isabel here, how is she seeing this? Even if I don't want to ask, the capability to try to reach, to see a different perspective that I have, is going to help me and is going to stop me from overthinking a situation or the assumptions that I make in that situation. Okay? This is extremely helpful. Extremely helpful. And if we want to develop this consciousness, those are reflections that we need to do. Okay? We need to reflect upon things that happens to us. Not only going with the flow. We have to stop. Okay? And if I do this, I am going to realize, who doesn't go through this, that sometimes when we are able to talk to a person face to face and really tell that person how you see the situation, and the person said, oh my God, I didn't realize that at all. How many times did that happen to us? Many times. Many, many times. Okay? So when we exercise this, we are going to see that, number one, we're going to make sure that we know that that person does not perceive a situation the same way as I do. Especially if I'm a person, for an example, that sees things to my heart and the other person sees to the mind. Completely different. Okay? So no one sees things the way they are, and try to do that. Try to reflect how the other person sees, or maybe even ask how they see it. It's completely healthy. And the number 3 is that question, am I in survival mode? This is autopilot. You have to ask yourself. Because we create this survival mode. But it's not who we really are. It's like we create a persona. Okay? And this persona, it's built according to the experience that we had in our life. And we create this persona. And it's wonderful, right? But in order to develop your consciousness, you're going to have to slowly recognize the persona, which we can call ego, and trying to find ourselves. So it's a job. It's a job. So when you are in autopilot, you are on survival mode. And it's very important to ask yourself if you are actually reacting on survival mode, meaning that you usually see things that way. So every time I talk to someone, it's not very respectful to me, or I interpret them as non-respectful. How do I deal with that? Usually, oh, I am completely intolerant, and then I just get really mad, and I just leave the room. How many times you do that? Every time that happens, I'll do that. Okay, this is survival mode. This is how you're reacting to life. And we create that to ourselves. And we have to get out of that. We have to. Because it's good for survival. But we are not here to survive. We are here to grow. And this is very, very tricky, because some people don't get it, and they think the survival mode is only through actions. It's not. I'm not talking about your actions, because you might have a poker face and still be on survival mode. The way you're going to realize that you are in survival mode is to go and try to find out how you feel and your thoughts are. How do you react to a situation? So every time that somebody does something that I don't like or I don't agree, what is my survival mode? Indifferences? Is that how I reacted? Indifference? I just leave? Or I get mad that I don't say a word? A word? I get hurt? And a few people, they do explode. And they say things. And they get mad. But the person that is usually quiet, don't say a thing. Never look in your face again. And never treat you the same way. It's on the same survival mode. But they judge the one that is more explosive. So survival mode, it's not related to your actions only. It's related to your mind, and it's related to your feelings. If you are a person that usually don't say much, even when you're angry, does that mean that you are not angry? No, right? You can be more angry than somebody actually shows and demonstrate their anger, right? So that's your survival mode. Okay, so it's not only through the actions. So remember to ask yourself that question and realize that this is how I usually deal with the situation. But this time, I'm going to do differently. Okay? So if you don't ask that question, you're not going to get that. Okay, what are my expectations in life? Those are another good questions. Do I expect people to act or to do things my way? Yeah? Huh? All the time. Right? Okay. So, would that would that complicate my life? Oh boy, right? Because if I could only accept people the way they are, right? If I can only do that, my life would be so much easier. But no, of course not. I have to complicate things. So I want to force other people to act like I do. Who is the one who paid the price for? We do. The other people barely get it. You just get, when you are like this too much, you're just going to have a problem relating to others and keep friends and etc. Or at work. But if you, most of the time, the person that gets hurt the most is us. It's time to wake up. It is time to realize I'm the one who paying the price for not transforming myself. No one else's. I am. And then because we do have a problem of expectation versus reality. We do have a problem with that. Again, with the example of the husband that is not very romantic, my expectation is that that husband becomes extremely romantic because I'm romantic. Okay? Reality is he's not romantic. That's the reality. Now, when I use the expectations here, I am going to play a game. My mind is going to play a game with me, and it's going to think, oh, it's because he doesn't love me enough. And we make these assumptions that we pay the price for. It's because I'm not good enough. Okay, we make all this assumption, and the reality, it's a simple fact. He's not romantic. He doesn't think that this is important. Now you can talk to them about that and say, hey, can you be a little bit more romantic? You know, I'm a little romantic, so I expect romantic. No. But we have a problem that we think that people can read minds. And they can't read minds. And that brings a lot of frustration. When I expect others to do and to read my mind and to do exactly what I want. But the reality is that person have no idea of what you want. To you, it's very, very clear. But because we see the world different and we perceive the world different, for the other person, it's not clear at all. So a reality check, it's good. And ask yourself, what is your expectation? If you ask yourself that, it's funny how the way it is. Because when you say, you know what, I am expecting that person to do this for me. If you acknowledge that, it's funny because you're going to realize that you are working with expectations. But we don't even do that. We don't even know that we are expecting. And when you ask the questions, what are my expectations in life? You're going to realize that you are a little bit of an delusional actually. Little bit. Okay, so reality. And then we have the simple versus complicated. So I am going to give you a little situation. So let's give a situation. One person gives an opinion that something that you did and the person disapproves. This is the scenario, okay? This is the fact. A person disagrees with you and something that you did. How can I complicate that situation? How can we make that situation very complex and very complicated?
Change her mind.
Okay, what else?
Assume they did it just to hurt you.
Assuming that they did just to hurt you. What else? Making it personal. How can you make that situation personal, Scott? I simply don't agree with what you did.
Exactly. So my opinion matters, not yours.
Oh, so I need to think like you. My image of you, I have to think that you are this great person.
Yeah, if you can't see the other perspective, then you're stuck.
Okay, so I'm asking, how can we complicate things? Play with me, guys. Play with me. How can I complicate a simple fact that the person disagreed with me and something that I did? How can I make that very complicated?
Trying to convince her to see the same way.
Okay, try to convince, so I'm going to argue with that person and say, no, I'm right.
And overreact.
Overreact? How can I overreact to that? Calling names. There you go. What else? Yelling. Crying. There's another one. Indifference. So you don't agree with me, then I'm just, not gonna talk to you for a while.
4 days.
Revenge. 4 days. So 4 days without talking to you. All right. We know this because we are the masters of this, right? The simple fact is the person doesn't agree with us. Okay? And other things that complicates this is when the fact that the person doesn't agree with you hurts your feelings. And you get disappointed. So, it's when the image that you want to put out there, I have to be the person that I do things that, it's right. And then we overreact this and we go to a process that is called overthinking. Okay? The only thing that happens was the person don't agree with us. That's it. But the overthinking, it's what makes that a very complicated situation. And it's funny because the person that actually don't agree with you, they go home and sleep. Because to them it's simple. I'm sorry, you did something, I don't think it's right. I didn't agree. I didn't think that what you did was okay. And then, okay, bye, have a nice day. And the person goes to sleep and have a wonderful life, and you go overthinking. You can't take the criticism. So you're overthinking, and you create something, and that same situation becomes so complicated that you cannot even be the same person that you were with that person before. Okay? So who is suffering? We are. And how can we make that same situation simple?
Be open to dialogue, see how they see it.
And what else? Why can we make that same situation simple? How can we make it simple?
Get over it.
Get over it.
Accept their opinion.
Accept their opinion. What? What else?
Accept that people disagree with you.
It's okay to disagree, right? We agree to disagree. That's so wonderful. I love that. We agree to disagree. Right? Simple, right? And do we know how to make things simple?
No.
We do.
Or just not act.
We don't do it. Exactly. We know. We know. And what is this force that keeps us going and makes things complicated all the time? Ego, the mind, image, your self-image. Okay? So those are the things that the lessons, there was a poet in Brazil that says that the lesson we already know. We just need to do it. Because we know things. We know things. But we didn't realize yet how bad are those things that we are doing to ourselves. Because the moment that we realize, we're going to say, I'm done with the overthinking. At least is what we should do it. Okay, it's because it gets to the point when you can't take it anymore. Can't take it anymore. And that point is the point that you see, either I change or my life, it's going to go bad. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but most of people don't realize that they can do their own transformation. And they can start to see what are the things that they need to work on it to be happier. So, this is an image of the overthinking. So, every time you catch yourself overthinking, stop it. Just stop it. You know why? You know why you need to stop it. For your own sake. Stop it. We need to, now I'm going to give you something to really working on it. It's witness how we deal with things. We do have a pattern. We do have it. Every one of us have one. This is the way that we usually act, the way that we usually react through life. Okay? So, one thing that we can do is witness this. How can we do that? Simple exercising. Okay? When something happens that you don't agree or you don't like it or irritates you or do anything that took your peace away, okay, you're gonna see how do you usually react to that. You're gonna witness this. How? You're gonna come to your breath, come inside, and you're not gonna react to that. You're going to observe how your mind works. Just observe. Have anybody here observed their minds? Yeah? Okay. Who is the observer?
Who's the observer?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand the question.
No? Okay. Because your mind is going through many things, and you sit and you observe your mind, right? Okay. Your mind is thinking, you observe. Who are the observer? Okay, consciousness. That's one answer. So when you observe, you're going to observe and you're going to realize that you are not the ego. You are not the thoughts. You are the observer. And the observer is the consciousness. And when consciousness observes a situation, the mind can only pay attention to one thing at a time. Notice this. Your mind cannot observe more than one thing at a time. Only one thing you can focus on. Okay? So if you realize that you want to focus on your breath, go in and just observe. Oh, this is what my mind wants to do. You're going to see that you are the observer. And the consciousness is not the mind. And when you do that, you're going to say,
You mean your conscious desire is not turning on. What you want, even though I want it, I can't do it because my body is still telling me I got to do something else.
Yeah, and your mind too. So separating yourself from your mind, it's extremely important practice.
It's like a cigarette smoker trying to quit who wants to quit but can't.
Exactly, exactly. But if you observe and just sit and don't relate to it, right now we are slaves of the minds. The minds tell us to do something, we do it. When we become the observer, it comes the emotion, for example. Let's talk about the irritation. When the irritation comes, it just takes like the whole body, right? And some people show it, and some people put a poker face, but it's there. It's like your whole body, it's on fire, right? So what do? At the moment that happens, we react on our own way, on our own part. We overreacting. We do exactly the same thing all the time. All the time. We do the same thing. When we become the observer, the body is shaking, the mind is going, and you sit there, breathe, and observe. It's incredible. It's incredible. Because what you're doing in that moment is you allowing your consciousness to witness your autopilot. And you witness. The consciousness is the witness. But you have to create a space to see it. Otherwise, you won't be able to see it. Okay? So when we do this simple exercise, we realize, okay, I do things on the autopilot. I'm going to be the witness. I'm just going to witness, observe. Scientifically saying, no emotions can stay in your body if you are conscious about it for more than 2.5 minutes. So that will tell you a lot. 2.5 minutes. If you do this, if you become the observer, it's going to go.
That's a lifetime.
2.5 minutes. That's all it takes. It doesn't take long. It takes 2.5 minutes.
I like when you be like the scientist, right? You step away and you go, okay, there's an exercise that I've done. And you feel like you're taking notes. All right, yeah, I feel that happen. Oh, okay, that's over there. This is what I really want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you use that perspective as a way to separate, right, and be objective to what all of the stuff.
Yeah, but yes, but the problem is, in order to observe and be the witness of the part, you cannot think on your own. You just observe. So you don't make solutions yet.
Right, you're taking notes.
No, you observe. For an example, you observe, but you just observe and, okay. I don't know who did this, probably Stephen can tell you, that when you are observing your own thoughts, it's like you see the thoughts going from one way to another and you're just there looking. You're just observing. And when you do that to your emotions, it's the same thing. You just want to know how the pattern works. Because if you know it, you can change it. Okay? So, same situation with the scenario that I did before. Okay? A person criticizes you. When you witness your partner, you're going to say this, I'm going to do differently. Because I already know. So, what can I do? I am going to allow that person to have their own opinion. That's one small thing to do. But it's small. It's small. I'm going to allow that person to be the person that they are. But in order to do this, I have to become the witness. Because if I don't do it, and then I'm going to play with my mind. It's different. When you're playing with your mind, it's like you do this, and then I'm going to do this, you produce, and I'm going to do this, you do this, and you're going to do this, you do this, and you're going to do that. But you don't set aside and observe how the system works. And this is exactly what it's missing. We overreact. Okay? We make things complicated. Only because we refuse to do little things. Now, the spiritual practice is something that you need to practice every time. To master whatever you want to do in life, you have to exercise every single day. It's not once in a while. Because if you really want to master your spiritual being, your spiritual life, and you really, really want to grow, you have to do this type of exercise that I told you. It's only one of them. There is many things that you can do. You have to do this every single day. Every single day. And like I said to you, it's got one little thing that if we do it every day, it's not that bad. But when that little thing becomes huge, then we have to deal with that. That is a bigger problem.
Well, the little thing turns into a big catalyst.
Yeah.
You think the problem's so big, but it's the little thing that solves it. That's kind of what I'm going with.
Yeah. It's
Blow up or anything like that. So, I don't need the 2.5 minutes because I just don't stir that long.
mm-hmm.
I might stir after, try to figure out how to come back and finish the conversation in a regular way.
Mm-hmm.
With the
But think about that. Think about what I'm going to say you. So you get out of here and go a little bit here. Okay? It's not about what you think. Because we do not work with the mind only. It's about experiences. Experience something. Okay? So even if you don't say nothing, but you experience the emotion of being hurt, it's still there. Doesn't matter if you go back and say it differently and try. How do you deal with that emotion? How do you deal with getting hurt all the time? So it's not about fixing the problem so you will have harmony around you. It's about dealing with a transformation that needs to be done within you. Within you. This is what we need to transform. It's ourselves. It's to get into the point that people's comments won't hurt you anymore. You know why? Because you accept a person and you don't have any expectation, and you just allow that person to be that crazy and it's not personal. Then you're doing the work. Okay? So, not saying, not doing it, trying to say the right thing, it's not the answer. You can do that, but it doesn't transform you. Okay? What do you do with your pain? And how you grow with your pain? It's the secret of life. Not trying to put your pain over here. Deal with your feelings. Observe your partners. Ask questions. That's what we all need to do. Okay? Thank you so much.